it's like you're trying to vote for the lesser of two evils, and you don't know. I mean, you have to decide, but it's like, what do we do? I don't think that you have the hardcore Republicans who are going to vote for Trump no matter what, and then the hardcore Democrats will just vote for Biden no matter what.
And then you've got a select few that are conservative mindset, but they don't like Trump. So I feel like those individuals would rather take the risk on voting Biden in and not allowing the Senate to sway towards the left and basically keep the Senate on the Republican side, and take the risk by voting in Joe Biden, and then hoping that he doesn't overhaul and completely dismantle everything Trump's done.
Right.
Look, I don't want to get too much more into this because, it's frustrating. I lost a leg for this country, as some of the viewers and yourself know, and I feel like everyone has a right to say something.
Right.
But I feel like the way in which they're sharing their opinions, their frustrations, social media, sure, it's an outlet for a lot of people, but I feel like it's a negative outlet. It should be more on a positive note. But again, for me, I was raised conservative, and I kind of lean on the Republican side of things, and I do very much have a lot of lenience and flexibility with liberal social issues.
Right.
And I feel like this country was founded a long time ago, and some of these social issues weren't really a part of society, whereas now, because we live in such a mixed society, especially Americans, that over the last couple hundred years, some of those issues have very much, what's the word I'm looking for?
Raised to the surface.
Yeah, that rose to the surface, right. And so since they have, I like to vote on social issues, and I see both sides of the fence on those. But with regards to just how we overall get things done, I'm a little bit more aggressive on the conservative side, just because that's how I was raised, and it's just what I believe.
And I agree. I'm basically the same way. I was raised in 3-4 generations of military families, so I have that kind of conservative side and very disciplinary and just getting things done. But what is disappointing is that it looks like there's everybody's like, instead of all coming together to solve a problem, it's like, I always make this analogy, like, okay, you have a boat that is sinking. This is not the time to start arguing whose fault it is. Let's just fucking save the boat first.
It's the best. There's two words that come to my mind right now. We live in a divided democracy.
Yeah.
It's very much a democracy, but it's very much divided. And that is the problem, that we don't even care. Like, let's say you're a liberal, and let's say I'm a conservative. Say something about anything.
Anything?
Okay, fuck you. It shouldn't be that way.
I know.
And that's how it is.
Yes, exactly.
And that's when social media and the uprising and the looting and the social, it's too much.
It's too much. No, exactly. And then people are starting to.
Sorry, Mom.
And that's just getting. It's like flaring up even more and more, because, like I said, I mean, we're right now in a time where we're saying, okay, forget about our personal issues. Let's try to save this boat, and then we can work on our differences or whatever. But right now we're all sinking, so it's not about being right. It's about doing the right thing. And when we are in the U.S. sinking and the rest of the world is sinking, it's like each country is pulling in their own direction, and then in the US we have multiple directions, and everybody's trying to pull, because it just so happens that we have elections here. Other countries don't have elections this year, so they can work on their own political divide or whatever and do whatever they can. But in our case, as we get closer, let's put it this way: if this was a normal election year like 4 years ago, we'll be talking elections and debates and all that stuff since the beginning of the year. But now it's more convenient to have the news be more about the COVID situation and the way each party is pulling in their own direction or for their own interest, even for rescue packages and all the stuff. I mean, it's like Americans are losing their jobs. Americans don't have a job. They don't have money. You're telling them not to work, but at the same time, they don't have any money.
And people in the workforce, look, I've being a part of a nonprofit organization, and we don't need to go talk about too much work, but you have you have people in the corporate world, you got people that work for small businesses, and on a board of directors, you've got such a mixed, diverse group of people, and everyone's in their own little bubbles.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
And not just them, but their employees and their staff and their coworkers and their friends and families, even churchgoers. I'm a part of technically 2 churches, and I feel like a lot of individuals are getting squirrely. Men, women, children, everybody's affected by this thing, and no one knows really what's going on. And it's a very interesting time to be a part of society.
Yeah, what is equally frustrating is the fact that we all did everything that we were told to do. Like when this thing started, like officially,
and it's still not good enough. Is that what you're gonna?
Yeah, like we started in March, getting a little more serious about this, and then finally they said, okay, we're gonna have in certain areas confinements, and everybody was kind of stay home, all that stuff, wear your mask all the time, and we were basically playing by the rules for the most part. Most people were doing that and only going to major, like essential outings, or going to a store. You were an essential worker going to work, or this or that.
Oh yeah.
But we're doing everything by the book, and then it turns out that it didn't matter. Basically, we're back pretty much as far as numbers to where we were before, thinking, okay, well, all of a sudden this person that is making $12, $13 an hour is an essential worker, and you can go to the store, and that person now is, our life depends on that person being there.
Sure.
Because if we go to a store and the store is closed, because like if they make my business close and I'm a laundromat or whatever, and I'm not an essential business, and they close my business, they tell me, no, you cannot open a restaurant,
You know
for
what
example.
a pet peeve of mine is right now?
Yeah.
And I actually just saw it just a little bit ago at a store. I was running errands just before I came here. And I saw a gentleman walking into a store without a mask, so he put his hand over his mouth. Yeah. Okay. But then I didn't mean to look, but it was interesting that he wasn't wearing a mask and no one called him out on it. But
Right.
In my mind, I would like to call him out on it, but I don't work at the store. I'm not a manager, so it's not my place. And plus, based on demographics, I chose to keep my mouth shut, right? Mm-hmm. However, the same gentleman, as he's walking in the store covering his mouth, he uses his hand that was covering his mouth, whether he has COVID or not,
Right.
or coronavirus, he grabs like a bottle of spaghetti sauce, right,
Yeah.
with his hand, and then he uses his other hand to cover his mouth and walks out and then pays that way. Well, his hands were right over his mouth the
Right.
whole time, and
Right. It's just
even if COVID or no COVID, that's just
it's just gross.
it's gross.
You shouldn't do that. I mean, it's like many of the things they said, okay, you need to wash your hands. Okay, well, people normally wash their hands, but even when we follow the rules, and then you realize that then they start saying, I remember specifically when it was Memorial Day back at the end of May, when they said, okay, we're
It's
going to
spike.
Yeah, we're going to see the spike on Memorial Day, but then they said, okay, we're going to start opening the economy again. They're reopening. Okay, with the worst is over, all that stuff. And then we started having the summer, and everybody going to the
And then Labor Day just took place.
Right, Labor Day.
So if it spikes again, we're in bad.
Right.
We're in bad company.
And then it's like, but they already decided that, we're not going to lock down the country again. And that's actually not just the US. All other countries are saying lockdown is not going to work. Why? Because at the end of the day, when you shut down the economy, there are other unintended consequences that are far worse than what the COVID may
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So you have friends and clients all over the globe. Mm-hmm. Who have you talked to that's hit worse? Like what country's got it really bad right now?
Oh, well, Spain, for one, is the worst country as far as number of cases in Europe. It wasn't like that. Obviously, Italy was the one that was heavily pounded. As far as deaths, Italy in Europe is the highest country.
Right, sure.
Because they were the first one to have COVID. They were completely unprepared. And also the culture is very much huggy kissy together and all that stuff. And then also the average of the age of the population is older. So a lot of older people died. So as far as number of deaths, Italy was hit the hardest. So the cases to death ratio in Italy was higher. Now as far as number of cases, Spain is the highest in Europe, followed by I think France, England, and then Italy, and then you go down to Germany and all that stuff, and other countries, Belgium and Holland and all that stuff. But basically, if you look at the curve, Europe was like 2-3 weeks ahead of the US. It's like it moved, from east to west, and so Europe got the cases heavily before the U.S., and then the U.S. started getting serious, and then Europe started recovering, and then the U.S. started recovering, and now the Europe is falling back into the second wave or whatever, where they are thinking now. England or the UK already said they're going to have specific lockdowns in certain areas. Spain is doing the same thing. I was just reading this morning that Madrid may have, which is the capital. They said instead of locking down the entire city, we're going to have certain areas that are high exposure or high cases locked down.
Oh, wow.
So
it's not the whole country. It's just certain parts of the
areas,
country are going to be more secure
well,
than
because
others.
it's the same
that
thing.
Makes sense.
I think like here in Arizona, I think we've been very lucky. I mean, Arizona has a lifestyle that is very spread apart. Obviously, you compare Arizona or Phoenix, for that matter, with New York City. We're completely different, Though I'm not surprised that New York City was one of the most, or if not the most,
because everything's so compartmentalized,
right.
And people are so much closer to
everything
one
in
another.
New York is is a very density population. Like especially Manhattan and all these areas that are very dense. A lot of population in small space. Life is more together and shopping and everything. Here we're all spread out.
Sure.
So I mean, if you don't want to, you don't run into another human for a while. I mean, you can go walking down the street, and especially when the summer came, then nobody goes out anywhere because it's hot. Our lifestyle is very different than the way people live in other places of the country. So it doesn't make sense to lock down the entire country when you have one area that is really in bad shape, and the rest of the country is kind of like, you can control it a little better.
Sure.